Third, Thomas Jefferson, President 1801 to 1809. Of the American presidents, President Thomas Jefferson may have been the most talented. Jefferson's accomplishments extended from architect to writer. Further, he was an accomplished musician, statesman, and inventor. And then there was the Declaration of Independence thing, of which Jefferson was the leading author. About the only skill Jefferson did not have was one of public speaking. Consequently, he honed his writing skills with articles and volumes of letters rather than speeches. He was naturally one of the most articulate pens on paper of the colonial era. Thomas Jefferson was born on April 13, 1743, in Albemarle County, Virginia. He was third of 10 children born to a fairly well-to-do family. At the time, the Virginia frontier was under rule of the British Empire. He attended college at William and Mary and later studied law. At age 26, he was first elected to the Virginia legislature. 2 years later, he married Martha Wales Skelton and took her to the mountain-top home of Monticello, which was still under construction. Monticello became a showplace. The 35-room mansion, built by slaves who crafted even the bricks themselves, remains an historic landmark. Jefferson's personal life was tragic. His wife died 10 years after their marriage. As she lay dying, he promised her he would never marry, and he never did. He entered the White House nearly 2 decades later as a widower. Politically, however, he was highly successful. He eventually became governor of Virginia, minister to France, and late Secretary of State under President George Washington. In 1796, Jefferson was a candidate for president and came within 3 votes of victory in the Electoral College. Under laws of that time, the candidate in second place became vice president. Thus, Jefferson became vice president in the administration of President John Adams, even though they were generally at odds politically. Jefferson was a presidential candidate for the second time in 1800. That year, Jefferson and Aaron Burr each ended by with 73 votes and a tie for first place in the Electoral College. Oddly, both Jefferson and Burr were members of the Democrat-Republican Party, whereas John Adams had been a member of the Federalist Party. The tie vote was then decided in the House of Representatives. After 36 ballots and much deliberation, Jefferson emerged as President of the United States. While Jefferson was the third president, he was the first to take the oath of office in Washington, D.C. Historic accounts say March 4, 1801 was a fair day and Jefferson walked to the Capitol from Mrs. Conrad's board house just over a block away. The oath was administered by Chief Justice John Marshall in the Senate chamber of the Capitol. The center of the Capitol building itself was unfinished. Only the north wing of the building had been completed. Outgoing President John Adams had rushed out of the city by carriage at dawn, refusing to attend the inauguration of his successor. Adams had been very vocal in his feelings that the country would go to ruin in the hands of Jefferson. During the Jefferson administration, the Louisiana Purchase was completed. For roughly $11 million, the land territory of the United States was nearly doubled to 846,000 miles. Jefferson served for 2 terms as president, believing that no person should prevail in the White House for more terms than that. He retired seemingly without regret to live in his Monticello home. There he spent much of the rest of his life writing and receiving letters from friends and acquaintances. Upon his death, executors found 26,000 letters and 16,000 copies of his answers in his meticulous files. The line from one private letter Jefferson wrote is emblazoned upon the Thomas Jefferson National Memorial in Washington, D.C. It reads, "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." President Jefferson died on the same day as President John Adams, July 4, 1826. The date was exactly 50 years to the day after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Centuries later, President John F. Kennedy acknowledged the remarkable talent of the man from Monticello with this quote. While hosting a dinner of 49 Nobel Prize winners, Kennedy told the group, "I think this is the most extraordinary collection of talent and human knowledge that has ever been gathered at the White House, with the possible exception of when Thomas Jefferson dined alone." Presidential site: Thomas Jefferson Memorial Foundation, Charlottesville, Virginia. Thomas Jefferson, copyright 1901, The Review Company of America. Thomas Jefferson, 3rd President, real photo postcard. Thomas Jefferson, 3rd President. Born 1743, died 1826. Monticello and Jefferson, real photo postcard. Thomas Jefferson, Whitman Publishing Company postcard. Thomas Jefferson statue. Thomas Jefferson American Historical Prints postcards. Thomas Jefferson and daughter, real photo postcard. Monticello. Jefferson carriage, early 20th century. Thomas Jefferson grave, early 20th century.